155 pounds, what's going on? I had somebody else bring this to my attention. I talk about 155 all the time. I'm so looking forward to Islam versus Oliveira for multiple reasons. Not to mention I'm surprised within myself. When I look at the man in the mirror, I'm surprised. And who's looking back at me wants to see that fight? Because I didn't want to see that fight. I never wanted to see that fight. I didn't want that fight when Ali very started pushing for it. I already knew it was going to happen. I had this whole thing figured out. There was no anticipation. Nothing keeps the lights on in this industry. Nothing. Except for anticipation. That was an awesome fight. Oh, I loved it so much. If it's already done and you didn't buy it beforehand, which is anticipation, we don't have an industry here. And that fight lacked anticipation for me. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. I've been looking at it. I've been studying it. Here's what I missed. What I missed is what comes next. And generally, guys are positioning themselves ahead of time. Generally, at 155, there's somebody that's positioning. Now, I do know that Michael Chandler is laser focused on world title fight, whoever the opponent is. But Chandler is busy and he's got Poirier. Is that enough to be a #1 contenders match? Maybe. Maybe that's a massive fight. And the rankings would reflect it as well. But both guys have had that opportunity. They've had it somewhat recent. If Oliveira comes out on top, a reasonable answer is no. Probably not. We're probably not going to take somebody new and do a rematch with Oliveira right away. But Oliveira is also an underdog. If Islam wins, hell yeah, the winner of Poirier, Chandler. Yeah, you bet. But I'm only sharing for you guys. We don't really see guys positioning for this. Possibly the absolute best argument that we've seen that has gone to the public is none other than Volkanovski. And I'm not sure what the resistance is with Volkanovski. I'm also not sure that we're moving on past the opportunity of Volkanovski, right? If we were, then either Josh Emmett or Yair Rodriguez would have already been matched up with Volkanovski, who says he's ready, willing, and able. The fact that we haven't made a title fight for Volkanovski as his weight tells me that someone somewhere is at least open to the idea of Volk coming up. Is that our answer? And before you give me a yes, I'm not asking for you in this piece to predict who takes on the winner of Charles and Islam. That's actually not what I'm asking. What I'm trying to do is to bring forward to your attention that nobody is positioning themselves to do that. It will always bother me in a division when somebody doesn't do it. I mean, I could go back to Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez, who both at different times have been called #1 contenders, who both at different times, based on who was saying it, what day it was said, were going to be next for Volkanovski. Who, when it was rumored that Volkanovski had a hurt hand and was going to be out for X amount of time, we're going to do an interim championship between Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. All of these things were spoken. None of those things were spoken by Josh or Yair. Now, that's going to bother a guy like me. I can't care about your career and I can't care about your fight as a fan if you don't. If you don't care who and what's next, if you don't care if you get a title fight, I can't help you get it. I'll take all my cues from you. But it's important if we're looking at details and we're looking at the pieces on the board, it is important that we realize Volkanovski has not been without a fight in a meaningful amount of time. I mean, even Volkanovski's fight, which was on July 2nd, even his fight, that was a short notice thrown in, put together with Max. Volk had just got out of the ring with the zombie, got that all put back together. I mean, I'm just sharing for you, Volkanovski stays very busy. He came out, he let the world know, I'm training, I'm healed, the surgery happened. Distant memory. Yet Josh Emmett didn't say, good, I'm glad you're back, tell me when. Yair Rodriguez did not say, good, I'm glad you're back, tell me when. Do those guys know something that we don't? Do those guys know, is there some kind of inner workings within the industry that Volk is being looked at to take on the winner of this fight? I don't know how big I am on that. I think if Volk was being looked at to take on the winner of this fight, we would have obliged, we would have made him the backup fighter, we would have started this dialogue, he'll sit in the front row, we'll throw a cameo with whoever wins, saying, I'm next, you're next, let's go. But none of those things are happening, and I'm not seeing other 55-pounders arguing. And the 55-pounders almost got chopped off at the knees. I mean, in a period of time, Conor was going to come back, and if Conor wants a world title fight, that's what he's going to get. That was a real dialogue. That seems to have gone away. Conor is coming back, but he says he's going to do it at 170. That creates an opportunity. Where are the 55-pounders? I think that Benny versus Gamrot is as hard, skill for skill, X's and O's, physicality versus physicality. That is as hard of a match as any match that is currently signed for 155 pounds. I do not know if Gamrot is his first name, if Gamrot is his last name, or if Gamrot is a nickname. And I don't blame myself for that. I have never seen a tweet put out by somebody that's got Gamrot. I've never seen a headline with Gamrot. I've never seen an interview. I've never seen somebody called Gamrot calling in to the Errol Helwani show. I haven't seen it. I have not been I get contacted all day, every day by fighters. Very wise that they do that. I have not heard from anybody representing somebody called Gamrot. I'm not joking or trying to be a condescending prick by saying I don't know if Gamrot's a first name, last name, or a nickname. I truly don't know. But I know he's awesome. I know he's on a big card. And I know he's willing to do a fight that most 55-pounders are against Benny. Benny says if the main event that night of 280 falls apart, Benny's going to move in. Which tells us that Benny's being looked at. Look, if he's good enough to fill in on short notice, then he's good enough to fill in on a fully bid out promoted press tour. But is he the next answer? He's not positioning for it. He's not pining for it. He's not saying this is the number one contenders match. He's not coming down saying I'm one win away from. But nobody is. Nobody is at 155. Nobody's saying I'm next. Nobody's saying I should be next. And nobody at 145, and we've got 45 narrowed down to two guys. Who is the number one contender? Who is the rightful number one contender? We got that narrowed down to two guys. That's pretty damn definitive. In this sport, there's generally three at the table at all times. There's generally three names, three sitting at the table. Mick, Sean, Dana, they start bouncing. Everybody picks a side. Who makes the strongest argument? I mean, that's generally how it works. We're down to two. It's either Yair or it's Josh Emmett, but neither one of those guys has ever called for a fight with Volk. Neither one of those guys have said, hey, Volk says he's leaving. Let's take him at his word, interim this darn thing. Let's get us in there. Let's fight. They haven't said anything. I can't remember a time quite like this. And at 155 specifically, just because it's such a coveted division. I mean, it is iron on top of iron. There looks like there's a few options. But nobody gets a job that they don't want. We've had one reluctant leader in the history of America. His name was George Washington, who didn't want to become president. Nobody gets a job that they don't want. Chandler's made it very clear, I want that position. Volkanovski's made it very clear, I want that position. Everybody else has sat down and shut up. Why haven't I heard from Gamrot? Is that a nickname? Tell me more about Gamrot.